Oh, it's 1:30 and we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody had a good break and a chance to stretch their legs, do some work, avoid the computer entirely for an hour. Whatever you needed to do.
Hey,
But
Emily.
Hello. Nice to see you all.
Sorry, I just kind of, blurt out. I see people that I haven't seen in a
Yeah.
long time. I'm kind of like old home week.
Yeah.
yeah, and so we're about ready to get started. If you had seen an earlier schedule, you'll see, and we mentioned this last night, that our research discussion right now that we're going to have for the next half hour or so. We had to move one of our speakers to tomorrow, Naomi Ryan, who is a two-time USA national baseball player. Got a call on Thursday night inviting her to a college baseball tryout today, and she emailed me and texted me and said, "Can I go?" And I said, yes, of course you can. We can make that work. And so she is presenting tomorrow instead of today. And so we're thinking good thoughts for her right now. She's at a college baseball tryout. So, um, and so I didn't want, if you hadn't noticed that change, that's and so hopefully maybe we'll hear a little bit about that, or you can ask her about it in the questions tomorrow. Um, so what I wanted to do for this next half hour before we jump into our presentations and panels is simply take that opportunity, as we often try to do, to hear what people are working on, if there's a project that you're working on, if there are questions that you have about research in general, whatever it might be. And while you're thinking about that, I want to encourage people to also think about and write in the chat for us, because I think this would be another really helpful thing to sort of gather information on. If you as you think about all the aspects of women's baseball, all the participation, all the different ways, are there things that you would love to see somebody doing research on, somebody producing an article, somebody doing a presentation on? It might give people some ideas as to what is it that you would like to see that you haven't seen. So whatever that might be, use the chat as to so we can sort of capture those ideas as well. Um, but I'm gonna I didn't tell you I was gonna do this, Kat, but I was gonna put you on the spot just a little bit because I know you have a project that you're working on as a starting point, just to let me put and gives other people a chance to think about. And so, Kat, if you wouldn't mind
I
telling
don't
everybody
mind.
what your latest project is.
I don't mind. I actually have a, a couple. So,
Right.
so how much time do you people have? So one project that I have been working on actually for quite some time, and it keeps getting pushed back because other things come to the surface, is a book about Edith Houghton. And if you all are not familiar with Edith Houghton's story, you may have seen pictures of her or know that she was part of the Philadelphia Bobbies. She was 10 years old. Her nickname was the Kid. She played shortstop for the Philadelphia Bobbies, and at age 13 went to Japan on a barnstorming tour. Ultimately was a very difficult experience. Some of you may know about that as well. I did an article in the volume edited by uh, Fritz. Fitz. Oh my God, why can't I remember his name? Bob. Bob?
Rob Fitz. Rob Fitz.
Yes, God. Okay. So you should never put me on the spot. So in his first volume of about barnstorming in Japan, I I did an article about Edith and about the Philadelphia Bobbies. So you can actually check that out to get a little bit of information. Um, that is a project that was again was supposed to be done before now, but then the recent book, my recent book, the third one that came out, All the Way, which was a short biography of Maybelle Blair, came to the surface and sort of took over in terms of importance. That was published by Roman Littlefield. So I am doing that, and another project that I am working on, sort of beginning to work on, is a project on Maud Nelson. And that is one that is way overdue for someone to do it. And so I have been doing sort of preliminary research there. There's always a project, right?
Yep.
There's always a project, and those are the ones that I'm focused on now. And yeah, so I am always happy to talk to people about either my own process. My first three books were very AAG PBL heavy. That was my entry into the world of women's baseball way back in 2003. So my research is heavily focused there. But I've always believed that as important as their stories are, we can't let them be the only stories we know or write about when it comes to women's baseball. So I am very dedicated to expanding beyond that. So I'm always happy to talk about that, but I'm also happy to get any insights or suggestions that you guys might have
Awesome.
concerning projects that I'm currently working on.
Thanks, Kat. And so I'll just quickly follow that up and then open it up to other people. As Kat says, we all always have many projects that we're working on. And so I'm in the process of finishing up my next book on African American women in baseball, from the Dolly Vardens right up to the present day. Because as Alexa Brown pointed out in our panel, right, there's a dearth of women, and then women of color, there's even lesser knowledge of there. And so we know a little bit about some of the women in the Negro Leagues, Tony Stone, Effa Manley, etc. But trust me, the story is, as we would all suspect, way bigger than that. And so, like Kat, that one's a little overdue, but it's getting closer to being finished. Um, and so we're getting there. We're hoping to get this out and get it to my publisher so that the plan is to have it out either late 2026 or very early 2027, depending on how all that process goes. And then the other one that is an ongoing, continuing, I am working on the second edition of the Women in Baseball Encyclopedia. Those of you, the first one, the second one is already 2 volumes at least. It might end up, I'm not sure, depending on the publisher's choice of how that could end up as a third volume, as we have continued to learn more and more and more. So, and that again, the same kind of time frame, hopefully, late next year is what we're looking at for that one. And obviously, with an encyclopedia, it's always a ongoing project, and so this will be the second edition. There'll probably be another one after that. So, because that also depends on people saying, "Hey, how come I'm not in there? Or how come this person isn't in there? And have you heard of this person?" So I'm always open to hearing those kinds of things. And so those are the two bigger projects that I'm working on. There's a couple smaller ones as well. As you'll hear tomorrow when I present on one of those. So and it's like Kat said, I'm always also, uh, that's a real good question, Maureen. That is probably much more likely this time, given the difference in way publishing is done now and things. Don't know exactly how that will work. The certainly the paper copy will come first. And then something that might follow that would be a more digital version of that kind of idea. But yes, that is definitely part of the conversation that is being had. And so appreciate that question. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I happen to have her newest one sitting right here. So Lost Diamonds, and I know Ellen is here. And so I just wanted to hold, this is the latest, this is volume 4, part 4 of your work. Ellen. And so that's something certainly for people to check out, and you learn a lot. So open to others what they're working on, questions that you may have. I see already there's a more about women's baseball in Japan in the 50s and 60s, which would be very cool. Because again, women's baseball in Japan has a long history. I see, hi Scrappy. I'd love to see research and effort in the socioeconomic impact and playability for women's baseball players seeking pregnancy. Okay. Um, interesting. Does anyone know if there's a Silver Bullets archive somewhere that might have detailed? Um, yeah, so that's the other book project that we're working on, Gary, and we're actually putting together as part of that an archive with as much of the detailed game level information we can find, and that when we that archive of material we're going to pass on to SABR so that it can become part of the SABR archives, and then other people will have access to it as well. And so that's been a long-term project that we're getting closer to getting that one finished. But yes, that is in the works. Other thoughts, questions, projects? Ellen, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your wonderful set of... Oh, sorry, I caught you eating.
Oh no, I
Isn't
have
that always the way it happens?
I have it's so I hope it's as beautiful everywhere today as it is in New York City. The weather is so insane. It's incredible. And I played softball this morning. So
Oh, cool.
but yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Heaphy. So Lost Diamonds is a comics history of folks who are not cis men playing baseball in America. The most current issue covers roughly 1955, so the end of the AAG PBL, up to just after the Maria Pepe decision in New Jersey and the reintegration, or I guess maybe even the first time girls were actually allowed without being disguised to play in Little League. Um, and so, yeah, it's full of interviews. It's kind of like if anyone, wanted to show someone who doesn't know anything about people who aren't men playing baseball, like it's a good kind of like Cliff Notes. Because it's an overview of starting in the 1700s and coming up eventually to the present day. And so, Dr. Heaphy, I'm so excited to hear about the revised encyclopedia.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's
in-depth.
definitely needed.
This is my comics contribution, but obviously, there's already so much amazing scholarship on this topic. But yeah, hopefully with a new medium, comics, it reaches a new audience. But yeah, Dr. Heaphy, I saw you at the WPBL tryouts, but I was too shy to say hello. So hello.
Oh, can't believe we missed you. Yeah, Kat and I were both there.
Oh
It
my
was
God,
pretty amazing.
that was amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, so Ellen's P is, as she pointed out, a different way to reach a different audience. And we were talking earlier with Maura about resources in schools and things like that. This is a great way to introduce people. So, and there's always something in there to be learned.
Oh, thank you. If
So
it's okay, I'll drop a link in the chat just so folks can
yeah,
read it
that'd be great.
themselves. But yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
so much. I appreciate the hype. The
Yeah,
new issue just came out last weekend. You
yeah.
got an advance copy, Dr. Heaphy. So
It
it's
arrived and I
brand
was like,
new.
ooh.
Brand
It's
new. But
very
thank you for your
exciting to
support.
see.
I do appreciate it.
Sure
Thank you.
thing. I see. I would like to see a psychological study on the effects of girls playing with boys when their locations don't allow for playing with girls of their same caliber or playing against boys. Okay. Um, Forward-looking panel focused on how to grow the girls and women's game, including what's working around the world, what they're planning next, and what their biggest challenges are. That's a great suggestion, Sherry. These are all really good ideas, and these are the kinds of things we want to hear, so that might give somebody an idea, somebody who's working on something or is looking for something. And as you're thinking about, there's all kinds of projects. There's everything from book length, right, works that are the kinds of, but then there's articles, there's presentations like people are doing here. There's opportunities, through SABR. For Kat mentioned the book that she contributed a bio to, but SABR has a bio project that allows people to, and a games project that allows people to write about, and they don't have to be major league games. So writing about women's baseball games that you have seen that interest you, writing up accounts from the AGPBL, Bloomer Girl games, all of those guys. So if you want to start smaller rather than larger, there's all kinds of opera. And then, as you heard this morning, Kat was mentioning the Nine conference. The Nine has a journal. There's the Cooperstown Symposium, and so there's lots and lots of opportunities to get your feet wet or to delve in as deep as you want to go. Working on Anne says she's working on a book about women shaping history of baseball, looking specifically for stories about girls who disguised themselves as boys to play, or even reporters who masqueraded as men to cover the game.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank
Anne, are
you.
you? Yeah,
I'm
go
right
ahead,
here.
please.
Good, don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you want to say hi.
I'm here in Texas. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Anne. Go ahead.
It's nice to talk to you again. You guys, thank you for everything you do. Yeah, I'm specifically in a little bit of enigma. I found a few, but I'm looking for legit cases of women who really did disguise themselves as men to play or to, you know, like Ella Black to report on games.
Right.
Anyone has any solid examples, crazy examples? We know they're out there, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
would love to hear from everyone. I can put my email address on here.
Please do. Yeah.
And my website. I go ahead.
Have you talked to Donna Halpern?
Thank you.
I have not.
Because Donna, particularly on the writer's side, I think probably has a couple of good examples for you.
Okay, excellent. I will.
And I can shoot you an email if you remind me, because I'll probably forget that I said it.
Okay. Yeah. Y'all, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
There are, I know, and you may already know this, but there are a couple of names that you may have heard of that were initially they were mistaken for boys and
Right.
then continued to play. It wasn't that they necessarily set out to do that, but they kind of went along with it. And one is Maria Pepe.
Right.
And then of course on the softball side there, I mean, and this that's a little different, but I wanted to mention Dot Wilkinson. And so there are those that may be outside of what you're actually looking for, but that may get to some of those other stories.
And that's, you know, you guys as writers, you know where that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Absolutely.
expect it, and then you hear a story, and then it
Oh,
leads
yeah.
to something else, and it's not the obvious thing that's out there.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that would be great. And anybody, I will put my website on here, but
Awesome.
love to hear from you guys because again, this is how books get written. Thank you.
Let's
Right.
go on the street.
Absolutely. And I see Lou put in Women in Baseball Law, and great suggestion. So Perry, tell us about your project. You're muted. You're muted, Perry.
There. Did I figure it out?
You
Yep.
did.
Okay. So that's funny, the previous discussion, because there were plenty of times when I was first starting out as an umpire, before the days of internet and FaceTime, things like that, I would write letters to assigners, organizations, and they would welcome me with open arms until the minute I walked in the door, and they would realize that I wasn't Perry Barber the dude, but
Yep.
Perry Barber, this little blonde who looked like butter would melt in my mouth, and saw a few jaws drop. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, finding out about how many times girls went along with the ruse in order to gain entry, because I myself am guilty of that. So my project with Greta Lang Henry, and for those of you who don't know Greta or know about her, she has an organization called Level Ump that she started in response to the sort of inertia about drawing women to the baseball diamond as umpires. She is a graduate of the same umpire school that I went to, Harry Wendelstedt. And we just got the sad news a few weeks ago that Wendelstedt is shutting down next year. So this coming January will be the final session of the school. It bothers me terribly because Harry was an icon. He's probably trained 10,000 umpires, more than any other entity or school that wound up getting umpires into the major leagues. And since baseball started taking over, minor league baseball, they've made all these changes to make itself the central office of all things baseball. And so that unfortunately has extended into umpiring as well. And they took over one of the only two schools, the other one in Vero Beach a few years ago, which I didn't have any argument with because I always thought it was a better idea that retired umpires should be teaching umpires rather than active umpires who would wind up competing with the very students they were about to judge and put out. It never made sense to me, any of that. But anyway, so after baseball took over the academy in Vero Beach, they decided to kill Harry's school by 1,000 paper cuts instead of just cutting off the head and saying you're done. They basically started minimizing the number of students that Harry was permitted to put out into minor league baseball, which was basically the same thing. So this year, Greta and I spoke a few weeks ago, and we're working on a project to flood this last Harry Wendelstedt session with as many women as we can get there. We've already raised $30,000 for tuition fees for hopefully for at least 20 women to be able to go, because that has never happened in the history of umpire schools. I think the biggest number of women that have attended simultaneously is maybe 3. So this would be, going out with a big bang, which we
Right.
definitely want to do to make a spectacle of women attending umpire school, even though they'll be going with no hope of getting a job in pro ball. We're hoping that enough of them will be evaluated as competent enough that they will win scholarships to the other school for the following January, and that we'll be able to keep their careers progressing that way. And the other ones will go back to their local leagues like I did after I didn't get a job at umpire school, and just keep umpiring high school, college, youth leagues, and changing the culture that way at the grassroots level as more and more of us get onto the diamond in uniform, and show that we've been here, we're competent, we make great partners, and we know the game, and we bring a lot to the table. And so anyway, that's what we're working on. So look for
Thanks, Barry.
next
That's great.
January to see a lot of women at the Harry Wendelstedt Umpire School. And if anybody here knows anybody, we are not setting a limit on age, because like I said, it's not a competition to get into pro ball. It's just a competition to draw as many women to the school in January as we can. So if anybody here knows of anybody that would be interested at all, please let me know. I will put my email address in the comments if that's okay, Leslie. Kat?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And yeah, please send us names, and we will.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
How much is umpire school? Just
It
out of
is
curiosity.
not cheap. It is $5,000
Oh.
average, for each student. That includes the hotel for 5 weeks, the instruction, lunch, and various other, like starter kits as far as equipment goes, things like that. So you get you get bang for your buck, but it is still very expensive. And not, that's why I think 9 out of 10 of the women that have gone to umpire school in the last several years have all gone on scholarships that they won by going to the free major league clinics, because that takes a lot of the stress out of the equation of going. I mean, it's a big enough deal to be able to have the 5 weeks, you know, in your on your calendar to be able to devote to going to umpire school on the mere hope that you might wind up getting a job.
Oh, you
So
want to go see Daddy? I think that's so.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
thanks, Barry. That's
Yeah.
great.
It's expensive, so yeah.
Yeah, it is. Emily, I saw your question about, I think that was yours about Little League data. Was that yours?
Yeah, I was just kind
Yeah.
of curious.
Um, and there's not you'd think that the Little League headquarters itself would have such a comprehensive thing. They don't. They have elements of it, but you have to sort of piece it together from a variety
Hey,
of
go say
sources,
hi.
unfortunately, and not something that is there as a whole set, unfortunately, as of right now. But they have some. But that would be something that would be, I think, very interesting to be able to put together and have some sense of.
It was
But
long.
that you
We
also
found
get
that
a
little
little bit.
snake sculpture.
I think somebody is
She
unmuted
took me
and
under the bridge and we kept going.
Sherry, can you,
someone is on. If you could all make sure you're muted, please.
Sherry,
Because
can you make
is
sure
it
you're
share?
muted?
Oh, sorry, I thought I was muted.
That's okay.
That's okay. Couldn't tell who.
Apologize, I was muted before.
Okay, there we go. And so, and then there's also where you might get a little bit more of that in a more comprehensive ways, rather than at the national Little League headquarters. Some of the regional have more of that data about their own play, and so you could gather it from the different and put together a more national kind, because that's where you find more of it. Is at that
Yeah, that's a
regional
good
level.
idea.
Yeah. Um, I was just reading Paulette's thought of Perry to pioneering talents when Jen Powell made her umpiring debut. Yes, absolutely. So there's a game, I don't think, Gary, you can tell me, has anybody volunteered to write up a games project for Jen Powell's games?
Not that I'm aware of.
Awesome. So just as an example.
They're available.
So Gary had offered in the chat, if anybody wants to hear more about games projects, things like that, he can certainly be a resource for that from the SABR side of things. So we've got a time for about one more before we're going to turn it over to Emily as our afternoon host to keep things on target and running on a night, right? Laura, I plan to write that game, but you can't apply for the assignments. Okay, got it. Thanks. Good to know, Laura. That will be we'll all look forward to reading that. And so, yeah, so as you continue to think about this, it wasn't a one-time ask. If you've got other thoughts and ideas about what you'd like to see people working on or ideas that you
I
have,
guess
just
I
throw them
have
in
a
the chat.
little thing. I don't
Yeah.
want to go too much into it, but because I'm talking about it a little tomorrow, but I learned about
Yes, you are.
Coolidge. I learned about Grace Coolidge being a diligent scorekeeper, and I kind of would
Yep.
love to delve into her role in baseball because she apparently just hung out at Griffith Stadium whenever she wanted.
Yeah, that would be a great one.
Yeah,
Because yes,
it's gonna
she did.
diverge me away from my original research once again. I was
Oh,
studying the
yeah.
steroid era to
That
begin
happens.
It, yeah, as soon as you start down a rabbit hole, 16 other rabbit holes
Yes.
arrive, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Well, thanks everybody. As always, these are the most useful parts sometimes of what we're talking about, to connect one another, to hear what people are working on, because you might run across something that could be helpful to someone else. Ideas, making connections is so important to this community.